Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Jonna Emke. I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, The Value of Learning in the New Skills Economy. Before we begin, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen are multiple application widgets that you can use during today's webinar. All the widgets can be resized and are customizable, so feel free to move them around and get the most out of your desktop space. You can expand the slide area or maximize it to the full screen just by clicking on the arrows in the top right corner. For your best viewing experience today, we recommend a wired internet connection and closing any other programs or browser sessions that you might have running in the background that could potentially cause any issues. Webinars are bandwidth intensive, so closing any of the unnecessary browser tabs or your VPN will help conserve your bandwidth. Slow networks can cause slides to advance more slowly, so if your slides are behind, just click F5 to refresh your page. Today's webcast is being streamed through your computer, so there's no dial-in number. So for the best audio quality, ensure your computer speakers or your headsets are turned on and the volume is up so you can hear our presenter. If you have any questions during today's webcast, submit them through the Q&A widget. Depending on the questions, we may answer them during the presentation or may save them until the end during our Q&A session. If we're unable to get to all of the questions today, someone from the Cornerstone team will contact you after the webinar to make sure you get the answers that you're after. Okay, on with the show. I'd like to introduce today's thought leader, Olivier Pestel, Associate Vice President, Solutions Consulting and Business Development for Cornerstone OnDemand. A French native, Olivier now calls Sydney home. For the past 20 years, he's been working with a long list of global enterprise organizations throughout Asia Pacific and Europe, helping them on their journey to building their talent and HR technology strategies. In 2014, Olivier joined Cornerstone Asia Pacific Japan and has been successful in building and expanding the business development and solutions consulting practices for the organization. Welcome, Olivier.
Thanks for the introduction, Jonna, and thanks everyone for joining our webinar today. So the topic of today is about the value of learning in the current business environment. In its most simple definition, learning, as we all know, is the acquisition of knowledge and skills done through different ways, whether it's education or experience. In preparation for this webinar, I went through a number of definitions and quotes, and the common denominator I found is that learning is a process with no endpoint. Learning never ends and learning never stops. But as we all know, learning is far from easy. It reminds me that a few years back, I tried to learn a new language. I'm bilingual, but I wanted to get a few more languages under my belt, and I picked up some Spanish. But I gave up due to a lack of time, and I have to say a lot of procrastination. I'd like to play now a very short video on what the future of learning could look like. Some of you will recognize the movie The Matrix.
Can you fly that thing?
Not yet.
Operator.
Tank, I need a pilot program for a B-212 helicopter. Hurry. Let's go.
Well, if only learning could be that fast and easy, that would be amazing. So there are plenty of reasons to be learning these days. Some of you might have already heard that the next industrial revolution has arrived. According to the World Economic Forum, we have entered what we call the fourth industrial revolution, in which technology gets embedded into our daily life and society in ways that involve and require new capabilities and new skills for all of us. You know, if we do a bit of history, the first industrial revolution was powered by steam. The second one was all about electrical power. The third one saw the birth of the computer age. And the fourth one is the era of chatbots, 3D printing, gene engineering, artificial intelligence, and somehow scary networking devices such as your smart fridge that will order your favorite food when you've run out. Industrial Revolution 4.0 is already here, and we will discuss today on how does organization get ready for it. One of the major impacts of the fourth industrial revolution is on the average lifespan of companies. According to Credit Suisse, the average age of an S&P 500 company is now under 20 years, and is down from approximately 60 years in the 50s, and is forecasted to shrink to 14 years by 2026. Another prediction from that report from Credit Suisse is that about 50% of the S&P 500 companies will be replaced over the next 10 years. Well, it's fair to say there's not only one cause for this evolution, right? The disruption caused by the fourth industrial revolution is forcing organizations to rethink how they address the massive shift in skills that we will need in the workplace in the future. When it comes to HR professionals, they are under pressure to cope with the impact of that digital disruption. And the good news is that we all have, and all HR professionals have a key role to play in what we call the new digital age. There are an increasing number of factors that shape the working environment of our organizations today. We've moved beyond work-life balance, what we used to try to maintain the 9 to 5, to what people tend to call work-life integration. The convergence of technology and communication means has blurred the lines for many between home and work. Another interesting evolution is the progression from one position to the next up in the hierarchy has given up and ways to new career patterns. We tend to see now more and more the term career walls rather than career ladder. These new career patterns are more fluid, flexible, and responsive to the needs of the businesses and the individuals. The stakes for us as HR professionals and in HR space are high, but it's anticipated that the upside will be considerable in terms of higher productivity, rising innovation, and increased prosperity if companies are able to equip the workforce with the new skills and the development tools and paths that are needed. Every industry, or nearly every industry, is being disrupted by this new industrial revolution. Disruption is not new, and we've been through waves of disruptions in the past. But the speed, the complexity, the interconnection, and the global nature of this one is new. In our daily lives, we've seen already disruption in how we consume media with the likes of Stan or Netflix, in how we commute. Obviously, Uber has been a big shift in how we get from one point to another. And disruption is coming in manufacturing in the form of 3D printing, for example. In fact, 90% of CEOs expect this transformation to disrupt the company, and few are prepared. So this is coming from a global analysis or survey from the Wall Street Journal. But based on that survey, just 30% of CEOs think that their workforce is ready with the right skills that they will need in the future. Every job is changing. Jobs are changing too. You can see here some new job titles that appear on job boards recently. Most of these job titles and job descriptions did not even exist 1 year ago. For example, Amazon. If you look on the top left, Amazon is looking for what they call a new type of job roles, which is culinary product developers. Some of you might have realized or noticed that Amazon bought a grocery retailer named Whole Food Markets in the US last year. So we can wonder if Amazon will change the food business the way it changed the online sale of books and music. But can you just imagine the complete set of new skills that Amazon will need to be successful in that new sector they're entering now? Tesla and Uber are looking for automotive occupant packaging engineers, which is one of these job roles that you see here on this slide. And this is because we see more and more development in driverless vehicles. And one of the key ways important element of this development is how do we redefine, or how this organization redefine the passenger experience. So, skills are, as mentioned before, at the top of CEO's talent agenda. 81% says that the organization are now looking for more and a much broader range of skills than in the past. If we look more at the regional level, our region, the Asia-Pacific region, is facing an upcoming labor shortage of more than 12 million workers by 2020. According to a research paper from the company Korn Ferry, Talent gap is already a major issue in APAC, and its impact is so significant that companies are actually increasingly adopting automation. And in the middle of that, our education system is playing catch-up. There's a very interesting paper I read from the firm Ernst & Young, EY, that wonders that nearly half of existing university degrees in Australia could be obsolete within a decade, leaving graduates with poor job perspective and job prospects. It's fascinating to see initiatives like NASSCOM in India or SkillSet on a global scale, where political leaders and business leaders join forces together to tackle this issue and offer ways and opportunities to reskill and retrain employees on a large scale. In the case of NASSCOM, it's a learning platform launched in India earlier this year. We're talking about millions of IT professionals that will have access to content and learning opportunities to reskill themselves. So at this point in time, I'd like to hear from you, and we will appreciate your contribution to our first question, poll question of this webinar. And we appreciate if you can take a few seconds to answer that question about skills inventory. The question is about how often do you review the skills that you have defined in your organization and make sure that they align with your current, but more importantly, your upcoming business needs. So we'll leave you 20 seconds to take a shot at that question. Thank you. Okay, so thanks for your contribution. Let me just bring up the results live here. All right, so, well, I guess it's not surprising to see that yearly is the top answer here. I think most of our organizations are shifting to, yearly processes, whether it's around performance reviews, goals rating, and moving into a more ongoing frequency of, goals conversations, feedback, performance conversations, and I guess in line with that, the way we look at skills in our organizations. All right. So talk about these new job titles and how industry and jobs are being disrupted. Even though, many job titles will remain intact in the future, but at least 60%, and that's coming from a survey from McKinsey Global Institute, 60% of all jobs can be significantly automated based on the rise of new technologies that we see every day. The most likely scenario is that most of our jobs will be reinvented rather than replaced. This reinvention creates an opportunity to adopt new skills. To do this, both employees and organizations should embrace, from our perspective, a culture of learning and accept the fact that we must work with emerging technology and not against it. I'd like just to share two examples of companies that we see continuing to reinvent themselves. First is Amazon, which we are very pleased to be counting as one of our clients. Just have a quick look and close look at this picture, and I'd like to ask you, what do you see, or perhaps what do you not see? As Amazon has embraced automation from the very early days, whether it's supply chain, customer service, and a few other critical processes to the business. So they embrace automation and also data-driven approach that gives Amazon a competitive advantage. But as they were doing that, some jobs were eliminated, but other new jobs were created. Actually, Amazon is currently in the middle of a massive hiring plan of 100,000 employees in the U.S. By the time this plan is over, Amazon will employ more than 280,000 people in the U.S. alone. When you look at the type of jobs they're looking for, these new job opportunities are for people with all types of experience, education, and skills levels. They're looking for engineers in many different parts of their processes, software developers, people with entry-level position or on-the-job training. The next one I want to call out here is Nestle, which we also are very proud to count as one of our clients. Who doesn't know Nestle or isn't a customer of Nestle product around the world? Personally, I love my espresso every morning. Nestle is one of the top leading food and beverage companies with leading market positions in the coffee business, in food and nutrition. What Nestle is facing is that, like many food companies, Nestle has been undergoing a significant transformation, driven by the fact that, I'm just putting the right slide in front of you. In line with the fact that we have more health conscious customers, and they're increasing their reach into healthcare segments. For some reason, my slide is not sticking up, and it seems to be. I hope you're seeing the Nestle slide just right now. So what I was saying is that Nestle acquired Novartis Medical Nutrition in 2017, and they had to rethink the talent that they need as they transform part of their business with a focus on nutrition, health, and wellness. A couple of weeks back, many Silicon Valley CEOs attended the Viva Tech conference in Paris. And a major topic of that conference was about how retraining or reskilling, as some people like to call it, is a crucial initiative of the coming years. It is a challenge for companies, but not just for companies. It's also for schools and universities, industry and labor groups, and policy leaders and makers. The need for social and emotional skills, like leadership as an example, will rise sharply. The need for higher cognitive skills, like managing complex information, which is coming from many different systems these days, and more from machine learning systems, will also rise. These skills are often seen as soft skills that schools and education systems are in general not set up to impart. So the question we like to ask you is, how will you future-proof your business, your people, with your success, considering all these factors that are impacting our workforce and the fit of our workforce to the businesses? Shifts in skills are not new. We've seen that with many, especially with the previous industrial revolution. But the coming shift to digital skills could be massive in scale, and it is already there. According to the Harvard Business Review, with the development of artificial intelligence, basic cognitive skills will not suffice for many jobs. And the demand for advanced technological skills such as coding and programming will rise by 55% in 2030. At Cornerstone, we believe that the starting point is a mindset change, with companies seeking to adopt and promote continuous learning options to employees in order to build what we call a lifelong learning mindset. I'd like to pause a second time and ask you a second question. We'd love to hear from you and your perspective on which one of the below obstacles affect or will affect your workforce the most to be ready for the future. So again, we'll give you around 30 seconds to enter your answer. Thank you. Okay, let me bring on the results live from that poll. All right, so it's quite, it's all, you have selected the lack of adequate leadership, and that's not a surprise to you. When you look at regular survey like the PwC CEO survey every year, the lack of leadership is coming top of mind in terms of what are the main obstacles or challenges that organizations are facing in order to be ready for the future. All right, so Historically, organizations have been built on a top-down model, that sometimes we call command and control cultures. And this is really to ensure alignment, top to bottom, facilitating reporting and financial analysis of the way organizations are performing. But these days, our organization has more and more remote employees, gig employees, contingent employees, project teams that don't follow the typical structure of organizations, virtual teams, subject matter experts, and all these different people and roles don't typically fit very well with the classic reporting lines. And there's a growing push to think about how we can break the silos and actually adopt a new structure on top of the historically existing one. And this is really to allow for better collaboration and generate better outcomes, that we can bring together all these different skills rather than one could do individually. It's really about putting the expert at the center. Beyond the point on the organization structure, there's also a push for a culture of continuous improvement. We see organizations adopting programs and initiatives to encourage people to take action and support them if they make mistakes, to keep them learning on the job and actually learning from their mistakes. So all the time looking for ways to improve processes and improving everyone's ability to learn new skills by learning, trying, failing, and learning again. If we have a look at a more detailed way of how workforce planning has been evolving over time, this visual represents, a shift from formal to informal ways of packaging and shaping learning in organizations. 10, 15 years ago, it was all the way to the left, mainly focusing on classroom learning and embedding initial e-learning platforms. And most organizations today will probably be around 3 and 4, and the customers we're talking to on a daily basis are shifting or are looking at shifting more to 4 and 5, and today most of them will be roughly around 3 and 4, having already in place blended learning, combining classroom and e-learning, incorporating some first initiative of social collaboration, building committees of practice, wikis, and allowing people to access experts and having access to them more easily by self-service manners, and moving into more of the modern workforce planning learning, which I'm going to cover in a minute. From a system standpoint and technology, for years the focus has been on the transactions. And the focus was there to help organizations to be compliant, to be process efficient, and keeping in mind also how to keep your cost optimized. Today, the focus is really to provide a greater relevance and personalization to every individual. So, which is what we call the people-focused approach, which goes side by side with this concept that I mentioned before of lifelong learning. For example, training that used to be a session in the classroom at a certain time with a certain instructor has transformed into learning practice that is continuous and available at your fingertips. It's personalized and has shifted from classroom learning to micro-learning as one example of the new way of delivering learning. The focus on developing new skills is, as I mentioned before, a top-of-mind priority for business and political leaders. And by the way, reskilling is most cost-effective as you may think. For many job sectors, the job market is too tight these days, and the competition makes it very expensive to hire and source these skills that you need externally. For many organizations, the only viable option is to empower your own people that you have access to with new learning strategy, with new skills acquisition strategies. And it's actually further making the case for your organizations that internal career development is part of your DNA, or is part of your value proposition for your employees. In summary, the fourth industrial revolution is making lifelong learning a necessary part of your business strategy. I came across an interesting concept which I want to share for a minute with you when I was preparing for this webinar. It's this concept of fixed mindset versus growth mindset. This concept came from a Stanford psychologist. Her name is Carol Dweck. She published a book in 2007 called Mindset. In this book, she said that it's not intelligence, talent, or education that sets you for success. It's your mindset, or it's the way you approach life challenges, whether it's personal or professional. According to Carol Dweck, you either have a fixed or growth mindset, and the one that you have will highly affect every aspect of your life. There's actually an online test that she developed that can help you figure out which side you're on. If you're interested to take that test, the link is included into the resources that will be available to you after this webinar. But basically, a fixed mindset is the belief that your intelligence, your skills, there's different ways to call it, are pretty much set in stone. And that you believe that you're born with a particular set of skills and capabilities, and you can't really change them. And from a learning perspective for us, it's basically the idea that you can only learn so much, and the impact is probably minimal. And for people with a fixed mindset, based on her book, it's pretty much that you will likely fear that you may not be able to go beyond your current capabilities, and you may hold yourself back by engaging in activities that you don't feel comfortable, you don't think you have the skills to be successful in these activities. On the other hand, if you have a growth mindset, you believe that with effort, with perseverance, with drive, you can develop new skills and new capabilities. With a growth mindset, typically you will use feedback and mistakes as opportunities to improve and really enjoying the process of learning new skills and things every day. This is what she calls purposeful engagement. With a growth mindset, you also believe that you can overcome obstacles and that you choose to learn pretty much from the experience, from working harder and try again until you reach your goals. Personally, I tend more to believe in the growth mindset, but I encourage you to use that online tool and that gives you a perspective on that with a bit more detail. As a follow-up to that concept, I also wanted to spend a few seconds on the theory of neuroplasticity, which is the brain's ability to continue to form new connections during your entire life, and not just when you're young and you go to school, but this natural ability that our brain has to form new connections, whether after it's been damaged or when, and that's the most interesting part here, when it's stimulated by new experiences. This supports the idea that you can adopt a growth mindset at any time of life. You may not become another Leonardo da Vinci, and I'm sorry to disappoint you here, but a growth mindset can help you to realize your own potential through learning and practice at any stage of your career. From our perspective, it opens up a limitless potential and a vast field of opportunities when it comes to talent development. To build up on that, we actually recently partnered with a think tank in the US called the Institute for the Future of Work. What we did with them is to research what types of skills are anticipated to be important and needed in the future. Among many of them, there are three particularly interesting categories which I wanted to call out here. It's digital fluency, multicultural dexterity, and empathy. There's a lot of fear talking about automation, AI, and robots, and how robots might take my job and a lot of jobs around here, right? A recent report from Gartner said that AI will actually help create more than 2.3 million jobs by 2020, while at the same time it will eliminate 1.8 million. So, there's a surplus here, which is the good news. And the focus of that report was to say that people and machines are already working together. For example, if you're using any kind of predictive analytics, you're already using the output of these machines and these systems to make decisions. And in your personal life, if you're using assistants like Amazon Alexa or any kind of chatbots when you're on the web, well, this is all supporting automation of customer service and customer facing, and it's already there. So we already see this transformation to a great extent. So, one of the outcomes of research is that there's a whole new mindset of working with systems that people need to learn and understand. So it impacts some transformation in some skills in terms of cognitive skills, but it's about to befriend the machine rather than to avoid them. The second aspect of the second category here of multicultural dexterity goes with the fact that with the globalization we've been through and we keep going through, there's more and more companies spread across the globe, right? And building up multicultural dexterity enables you and your peers and your employees to be able to shift your mindset and your perspective and understand the local practices or the rules of engagement that could be based on local culture or just local practice. We can see that it's becoming critical for companies to leverage these skills when they deploy new solutions, new processes across the globe. I just want to mention one of our clients with Suez. It's a French-based with a global coverage waste management company with more than 80,000 employees across the globe. When Suez decided to deploy Cornerstone HR platform, it found a way to consolidate information at the global level while keeping the existing local culture and processes intact, allowing to integrate and roll up employee data and information across country without having the need to disrupt each country existing processes and infrastructure, if you like. The third one is empathy. We live in a world of constant change, right? Whether it's on personal or professional lives. So, out of this report, it became quite clear that empathy is becoming a very important aspect of our daily relationships. And it's about seeking to understand someone else's perspective and how their experiences have shaped the perspective that they have. There's more to say about this particular report, and if you are interested to have more details on this research on the skills of the future that we did with the Institute for the Future of Work, the report is available on our website, and we also include it into the resources after this webinar. So what are the steps to develop new skills? The summary here from what is on the slide is that we must deliver tailored, personal, and relevant experiences. The one-size-fits-all doesn't work anymore, and technology today allows to create experiences that are engaging, easy to use anytime, anywhere, that save me time to find information I need, and having this information pushed to me by either curation by expert or curation by machine learning. It's really to be able to get that level of personalization in an age where information and content overload is the new norm that we are facing every day. And this vision is shaping how we are thinking about our solutions, and in particular our learning solution, which is designed really to deliver a platform that makes it easy for anyone in the organization and outside of the organization, if needed, to access content created by experts, subject matter experts, and machine learning. The content has to be engaging, from many different ways, from the look and feel to the level of interactivity in the content. Think about gamification, micro-learning. And the content that you're consuming needs to be also relevant with your career aspirations, where you are today, what's your current level of fluency on many different skills, and how this aligns to your future career path and development, really to align the learning approach with your own talent strategy at the larger scale. You heard me talking a few times about content. We truly believe that content is king in achieving this strategy. Tends to go without saying that your learning content is absolutely key in everything you do. And unfortunately, too often, companies are playing a game of catch-up. To get the most of your investment in a learning platform and strategy, content governance has to be part of that. Given the fast pace at which skills are changing, unfortunately, the content that you have is probably maybe already obsolete or going to become obsolete pretty quickly. So you've probably paid a fair amount of money for having content which is probably not giving the return you want. So being sure that you're always reviewing, updating the content and have a way to make it cost-effective is key. So you need to refresh your content, not just in terms of skills and in terms of impact, but also the technology that content is being delivered on. Think about mobile and micro-size versus long and lengthy online learning course. And over time, most companies will have contracted with many different vendors. So to go through managing and this content governance with tens or more of content vendors could be cumbersome. So think also about a way where you can manage in a one-stop shop way all your different content providers. I'd like to pause one third and last time for our last question of this webinar, which is to get a sense from you of which one of the following are you embracing in your learning strategies. So this is more relevant to how you deliver training these days to your users, internal and external, and we'll be happy to hear from you. So I'll give you another 20, 30 seconds for you to key in your answer. Thank you. All right, thanks for submitting your answers. I'm going to bring them live here. So there's a good range of answers here, and it's interesting to see the uptick on micro-learning and playlists, which are definitely at the top of the current trends. Okay. So, I'd like to go back to the question, how do you future-proof your business? And at Cornerstone, we believe at the core in the value of an end-to-end employee experience. That's what Cornerstone has been building up for the last 19 years. It starts from the moment the candidate will land on the page of your career site all the way to how you provide and shape career development opportunities. And I would like to use a quote from our partner, Aon Hewitt, which is that employee engagement drives business performance. It sounds like obvious, but it's not always being the way that companies have designed the way that employees will interact with HR solutions. As you may know, Aon Hewitt have a lot of expertise on employee engagement, and they do run quite a number of surveys around that topic. And 95 or even 100% of their surveys will show that employees with higher than average engagement are more likely to achieve higher performance ratings, and obviously that will impact any your business performance overall. So, sorry, I'm just shifting to the right slide here. Since our founding 19 years ago, we have had one vision, which is to provide the best technology to develop people and realize their potential. Our solutions are designed to enable lifelong learning and career development that is fundamental to the growth of employee and organization, and it's even more crucial these days in the new skills economy. And we've brought these solutions to more than 3,000 clients worldwide. I will leave you with this visual of our holistic approach to learning. And our vision is that we combine in one platform a learning management system, which will allow you to track and manage your compliance and regulatory needs. It's combined with a learning experience platform, which is that end-user engaging interface. Think about Netflix or Spotify. And with pre-curated content on demand. I mentioned that content is king, and we want to make sure that people investing in our platform are also not missing the point, and we focus on providing the right content to not just support your needs, the skills that you need today, but also the skills that you need in the future. With that, I will hand it over to Jonah to see if there are any questions. I'd like to thank you for your time, and I'd like to thank you for your contribution to the different poll questions. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Olivier. We do have several questions for you. Our first question is from Kristen. How do we support learners to learn in the modern environment? How do they stop interruptions, make time, etc.?
Yeah, that's a common question that we do hear a lot. I think before we think about learning, we do have a number of conversations with our client, which is how do you shape learning into more of a development conversation? Not just learning as a one-off consumption, but how do we shape a path which is over maybe weeks or months or years, and it's not just disrupting today that I will learn a certain videos, but how do we give time as part of the performance conversations, the check-ins, the conversation about managers and peers of our employee, and really have a higher level approach for development, and then it gives time for people to consume when they have lower or peak time. So I think it's interesting to see the conversation shaping up around a longer period of learning and how it shapes to development as a key topic.
Thanks, Olivier, and thanks for the question, Kristen. We encourage our other guests to continue to send us questions through the Q&A widget. The next question, any suggestions for learning options for older workers who may not be technologically adept or may not work full-time? How can we ensure learning is inclusive?
Yeah, thanks for the question. It's also a very important question. We believe that it's important that you don't leave anyone behind. It's easy to get more focusing on what is shiny and new, but we believe it's important to adapt the learning delivery to your different populations, your different age groups. If you have also more of a global reach, language and cultures and barriers, as I mentioned, the multicultural dexterity is important to keep in mind. So with that in mind, I mentioned the blended learning approach being a very common way, but we believe that's the right approach to make sure that you create an inclusive learning environment. Some people and some skills will be better acquired by face-to-face training, and others will be more relevant to be delivered by micro-learning. So it's not one size fits all, and we do provide organizations with the ability to brand learning so that it fits the capabilities, the expectations, and the best delivery for the different type of workers, whether it's gig employees, contingent, or older workers.
Great. Okay, our next question, and you did go over some organizations like Amazon and Nestle, but Fiona's asking, what other organizations are helping to develop a growth mindset?
Yeah. I'll probably repeat a little bit myself from the first question. It's all around making learning bigger than learning. Our approach is that skills, having a focus on skills, and to do that is all about the conversations that the manager are willing to have with their employees in terms of how the skills they have today will ensure adequacy with the role that they have in the future. So it's really elevate the conversation, not just to being a transactional discussion around learning, but bring the conversation around your own development and how you bring into that conversation learning and creating that element of discussion around my own growth, how I grow myself, and how learning will help me to grow.
Okay, next question. I've heard about jobs being lost to automation, but is this really true? When we say jobs are being redefined by technology, what does that mean? Is it just certain aspects of the job that are being automated, like the transactional low-end tasks?
Yeah, so certain jobs get impacted, there's no question, but I mentioned this report from Gartner with these numbers that they came with, saying 2.3 plus millions are being created thanks to automations and AI and the Internet of Things, but also 1.8 going to disappear. So definitely new jobs are being created, but some of the jobs are being significantly impacted or even disappear. If you just allow me to a step back, if you think about skills and to try to make it simple, we can think about skills in five families, if you like. The first family being more the physical manual skills. The second one, I will call them the basic cognitive skills, numeracy, reading. The third one, the higher cognitive skills around problem solving, leadership, creativity. The fourth being more around social and emotional skills, like initiative taking. And the fifth one being more the technology skills, like coding and programming. Definitely the first and the second category are the most impacted. Physical manual skills and basic cognitive skills is where machine and automation is taking more and more ownership of those. So it's all around organization having a good view of an audit of the skills they have and allowing people to be able to, acquire skills in the other categories. Like the higher cognitive skills is one that we see a lot of organizations really wanted to provide resources for their employees to acquire those.
Okay, next question. It's traditionally fallen on employees to ensure their skills remain sharp, but now it seems to fall on the employers. What role do you think the employers should play in ensuring their workforce is future-proof?
Yeah, that's, again, a very important question. My perspective is employers have always, but, and even more today, have an important role to play in shaping whether you call it learning pathways or development plans. There are different terms out there to ensure employees have visibility and actions which are available to them with the goal to maintain adequacy to the current role, but also start to build adequacy to the potential future role. It's again this concept of elevating the conversation, not just on learning, but how does learning play a role in my own development, and that has to be driven to some degree or large degree by employers. It has to be coming from the management.
Okay, we'll have time for one last question. It's on digital learning. So today everything seems to be about digital learning. Does this mean face-to-face classroom learning is over, or do we need to be careful about the types of learning we offer through digital means?
Yeah. Classroom training is not dead, and if I go back to the way I describe skills in 5 families, it depends on the type of skills. Like digital learning can fit perfectly technology skills, like I was mentioning coding or programming. These are the ones where you can go to online labs and at your own pace, being able to learn these skills. And on the other end, face-to-face classroom learning will be the better way of delivery for higher cognitive skills. If you think about problem solving or creativity, think about the role plays, the real-time feedback interactions that you will benefit by being in a room with your peers or experts while you do that. So it's a balance. It's this concept of blended applies as well when it comes to the skills you want to bring focus on, and some of them will be better acquired via classroom training, and others will be perfectly fit. Digital learning will be the perfect fit.
Great. Okay, so to wrap up today's webinar, just wanting to let everyone know that a copy of today's slide deck and other informative resources are available in the resource list on your desktop. We encourage you to download any of those that you might find useful. You'll also be receiving an email with the on-demand version of the recording of today's webinar. We hope that you share it with your team, those that weren't able to join us today. And last but not least, we've provided a quick online survey at the end of today's session. We'd appreciate your feedback on today's webinar so we can continue to improve our webinar content and the experience for you. Thanks everyone for your time today. Cheers.